I'm doing well, Jose. How about yourself? Good, good. Sure. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Great. Sure, sure. Thanks. Lewis, I'm doing great. How are you? Sure. Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sí, sí, sí. Se vio claramente de nueva cuenta el recto en combinación. Hasta 5 golpes alcanzó a conectar.
Can you hear me? Hey, how are you? Sorry, I'm not home so today, so I might have a little more trouble getting our camera just right, but I'll do the best I can. And the lighting's crap. Sure. Let me check to make sure settings to make sure I'm using my mic audio. Uh, let me- got the right mic. Testing 3 2. Okay. All right. Now I got the right mic. That is my razor. All right. Can you 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna walk away from running the bathroom. It'll be about 2 minutes. One to 2 minutes. Be right back.
understand you need not more lag, less lag.
Paid enough for this.
Figure it out. Here, you put this. You got better eyes. I get my stuff mixed up. Louie, Louie. Ooh, ooh. Louie, Louie. Ooh, 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 ooh. Thank you. What? I don't know what you mean by that's the middle. Do you want me to move? I can go whichever way you want, but I can't see myself on camera yet, so. You center me up, baby. Okay. Hey. Perfect. Let me see what the tight shot looks like with this very dark suit. I think it looks good. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Hey, gentlemen, how are you? How's it going?
Wonderful.
Doing great, Rick. How are you?
I'm good, man. There's a lot going on.
Carla Nixon, how you doing?
Fantastic.
Did you guys see Trump completely destroy himself, embarrass himself, and the disaster that was his performance last night at the African American or the Black Journalists Association conference?
I didn't see it yet.
We're not really talking about it, but oh my God, who's handling this guy? Or is he just not allowing himself to be handled?
He never has allowed himself to be handled.
Oh, it's horrible. He thinks he's in a primary in Tennessee or something. He's oh my God, some of the shit that's coming out of his mouth is just crazy.
Philadelphia, Mississippi.
I mean, he said so many crazy things. He said Kamala Harris just turned black one day, and he's talking to a black audience. It's like, well, you know, she did go to a black school, and she is, you know, a little darker than you are, at least. It's like he didn't even know who he was talking to. He just, they were laughing at him throughout the entire thing. No, Garland, you got to see it. Go home after the show and just
I'm gonna watch it.
It's my wife and I were cringing.
I'll put it like this. Nothing Trump says makes me cringe anymore.
Right.
Yeah, after all these years, nothing Trump says makes me cringe.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's got it won right now. If he just shuts up, it's like, okay, it's the fourth quarter. There's 2 minutes left in the game or whatever. I mean, in terms of, you know, politics, whatever. 7 minutes left in the game, and you're up by a touchdown and a half. And all you got to do is not put the ball in the air, you know, run the ball so you don't throw an interception. Well, this guy's just throwing interceptions and throwing bombs and shit every day. It's like,
but then he wouldn't be Trump, would he?
Yeah, you're right. What was I thinking?
We'd have to say, who's that guy out there who's acting rational and thinking this thing through? And they replaced Donald Trump.
If he could only read a script. Oh, jeez.
Offline, Rick, I'll tell you a story. He got into an argument with my mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law?
Yeah, he got into an argument. Yeah, like that.
You're kidding. Oh.
No, there was a department store chain in New York called Alexander,
Uh-huh.
and my mother-in-law managed the South Bronx store, and the Trump family bought the store.
Wow.
They bought the Alexander chain, and when he came into the store to do an inspection of the store, he didn't like the fact that there were black sales people behind the jewelry counter and behind the fur counter in the first section.
Yeah.
And so he wanted my mother-in-law to change to put white people in those areas.
Yeah, you know, with the expensive shit.
So I'll tell.
And where did he want the Puerto Rican? Where did he want her to put the Puerto Ricans?
In the back. That's what he said.
It doesn't surprise me.
In the back. Put them in the back.
And I want the Jews. And I want the Jews in the accounting department, right? I mean,
I'll tell you that.
What stereotypes did we leave out? Yeah, and I want the Irish guy doing security.
Yeah.
This was in the late 70s or early 80s, and she, you had to know my mother-in-law, but she was not backing down.
No, I wouldn't either. My mom wouldn't have either.
His mother had to apologize. His mother was there, and she had to, after he stormed out of the meeting because my mother-in-law would not.
You ready?
Would not acquiesce.
I got a little too much headroom, I think, but you know, I want to be like right there. There you go. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Okay. I like this, guys. You keep putting me here, and I think that looks silly. I think this is perfect. I won't. And this is perfect. I'm looking at it on the monitor.
They're trying to help you with your short game, Rick.
Hey, Suzanne and I went to Michigan last week, and we went to visit my son, and we went to a Twins-Tigers game. Oh my God, Comerica Field, what a great baseball stadium. And then she and I, there's a country club out there that's associated with mine, so we played golf on a couple of days. It was fun as hell. And I hit the ball well, you'll be glad to know. I'm just waiting for you guys to come down and stay with me, and we can go hang out. But, you know. Oh, I think this is okay. Yeah. It's not this shot I worry about. It's like when you go with those tight shots and I can see, and I can put 2 books on top of my head. All right, guys, let's do this. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. Once again, I can say this week that we're being joined by more and more viewers around the world. Millions of people have been joining us lately, and that's a lot of people have been writing as well and saying to us that they appreciate what we do. So I think it's important at this point for me to say to you, we appreciate you for being there. This is our Week in Review. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. Once again, I should tell you this week that we're being joined by more and more people, millions of people around the world. And a lot of people this week have been writing to us and saying they appreciate what we do. I think it's incumbent upon me to say, I appreciate you being there. Thank you so much. This is our Week in Review.
Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed.
You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you.
I don't know anything about politics. I just know that I love this man. I care about this man.
Lots of hate, lots of love, both in Israel and in U.S. politics. Some call it two sides of the very same thing, and that thing is not good. I'm Rick Sanchez. This is the Week in Review. Let's do this. All right. Boy, another wild week. It seems like we say this every time, and they just get wilder and wilder. But a lot of news, a lot of things going all over the world, including here in the United States. Joining me to recap all of these stories are the hosts of the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik, Dr. Wilmer Leon and Garland Nixon. There they are, my partners, to talk about a lot of stuff that really matters. And I guess we have to begin, well, in Israel. Israel has begun executing a series of assassinations and killings all over the world, really, in many countries, at least 5 when I last counted. None more brazen, of course, than what they have just done inside of Iran. That's a key word in this sentence, inside of Iran. They didn't just kill somebody. They went inside of Iran in a sovereign territory and assassinated somebody, essentially, an attack that has reverberated all over the world.
We have some breaking news coming in at this point of time. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed.
And there are late-breaking reports that a Hamas leader was assassinated by Israel in the Iranian capital of Tehran.
Hamas says its political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, has been assassinated in Tehran. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has confirmed the death, saying Haniyeh and his bodyguard were killed in an attack on his residence in the Iranian capital.
All right, gentlemen, and I think we have to start with this question. Are you taken aback? Should we be taken aback by Israel's brazenness? It almost seems like what Israel is doing and some of the things that we're seeing inside of Israel used to be fringe, and now they're becoming almost very mainstream. Wilmer, why don't you get us started on this?
Yes, taken aback, but not surprised, because these are the what do they say? The last kicks of a dying mule are the most dangerous. And what Israel is really now trying to do by such aggressive action, they're trying to do everything in their power to bring the United States into the fight, because Israel knows without the United States involved, it's over. And even with the United States, it's still over. And a tangential element of this, look at the fact that the value of the shekel has dropped dramatically. So not only are they losing on the military side, they're losing on the economic side as well.
But we have people in Israel literally protesting in support of the incredibly hard right-wing war cabinet and some of the crazy things they're doing, like they want to preserve the right to be able to sodomize Palestinian prisoners. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, Garland, but that's what's actually going on.
Well, and what Israel is doing is it's demonstrating to the world that it's not a responsible power. It's also really damaging, if it's possible to further damage the reputation of the United States. It's damaging the reputation of the United States because all of these acts that happen, rather than condemn them, rather than talk about them in a rational manner, the United States supports them. In fact, the one of the spokesmen for the U.S., when asked about the actions of a gang rape of a Palestinian prisoner, refused to call it a war crime, refused to call it a violation of international law. So it's not just Israel here. This is a direct reflection of U.S. international policy.
You know, the Ayatollah Khomeini apparently has tweeted a response suggesting retaliation now against Israel. You would almost think he would have to say this, right? Let's look at the statement that he put out. Let me read it to you. Go ahead, Victor, see if you can put it up there. Quote, the criminal terrorist Zionist regime martyred our dear guest in our territory because it was, as you know, the leader of Hamas who they took out, not an Iranian. And that has caused our grief, but it has also prepared the ground for a severe punishment. So what he's saying is that they are going to engage in some kind of retribution. But what history tells me, and you guys tell me if you agree with me or disagree with me, interestingly enough, Iran is usually much more measured than Israel is with this kind of thing. They're not the kind of country that's going to suddenly bomb Israel tomorrow or Jerusalem. They usually use a little more sleight of hand, and they're a little more patient about their response. Am I right or am I wrong, Wilmer?
You're right in terms of the action itself, but the language that's being used here, they had to use that language. And one of the things from a cultural perspective that is incredibly important for people to understand is Khomeini said, martyred our dear guest. And in their culture, it is when someone is a guest, it is their obligation to take care of that guest. And when you, and so they have, it's not only that they martyred the man, but the guest dynamic here is incredibly, incredibly important. That word should not be just summarily dismissed because it means a whole lot more to them than it means to us.
Yeah, you may be onto something here. And I think this is where this becomes interesting, Garland. This recent spree of attacks by Israel, it wasn't just with Iran or just with Lebanon. I mean, it included Syria, it included Iraq, it included Lebanon. So, you know, those are 5 countries. I mean, they're almost asking for a forging of forces that will likely at some point be working against them, if not already, no?
Well, I think it was a sign of desperation. That's the other part of it, because things aren't going well for Israel. Certainly, their economy is in free fall. Internally, they're nearing a civil war. In that, when some of the police came and tried to arrest the alleged perpetrators of the gang rape in Israel, other members of their community, of the more extremist settlers, were literally getting in a fight. There's rumors that shots were fired. So they're in bad shape. Economically, they're falling apart. Politically and internally, culturally, they're falling apart, and they're losing a war. So right now, I think it's a Hail Mary pass to try to drag in the U.S.
But they have, and they did. In fact, we're starting this conversation on the back end, you know, in the last chapter of the book, so to speak, or one of the last chapters, because this began last week when Netanyahu came to the United States and literally began dictating U.S. foreign policy in front of the U.S. Congress, while our vice president was hidden from that, and our president was somewhere looking like a corpse, I guess, gave an 11-minute speech on the same day. Yet, you know, here's what's interesting about this. We still accuse Russia of interfering and meddling in U.S. affairs while we have the prime minister of a country in our country dictating foreign policy, giving this reverberative speech in front of Congress where he's telling people what they need to do, and almost like he's the CEO. You know, it's funny. I mentioned this transurgence of energies where we are blaming Russia for something they're not doing while we're ignoring what Israel is doing. I mentioned this. I did a whole segment on it this week. I don't know if you guys saw that. The very next day, this soundbite, historical soundbite from actor Paul Newman, goes viral on the internet. Watch this with me.
In 1978 or 79, the Israelis shot down a Libyan civilian aircraft because it had violated Israeli airspace. President Nixon sent a wire to Gaddafi and to Sadat apologizing for this incident. There was no talk about it going into the United Nations. The International Pilots Associations had their meeting. There was 102 nations that voted to condemn Israel and 4 that voted not to, and the American representative abstained. Why? Because we couldn't create an enemy there. But when the Soviets shoot down an airliner, the same situation, we rise in moral outrage against this act. What is the difference? Because it's insistent. We must insist that the Soviets have got to be created as an enemy. Otherwise, if they're not really a big enough enemy, how are we going to get appropriations for more arms? Now,
is that not amazing how that same damn thing that he's talking about is still true today? And it's also interesting that you don't hear that type of voice today in the world that we're living in, certainly here in the United States. And what a shame, you know? I mean, what a damn shame, Garland.
Well, there was also an infamous, I don't remember if it was a cable or an email that was revealed during the Trump administration to Rex Tillerson, where they basically, said, look, if it's our friends, then we overlook these things. And if it's our adversaries, then we will take advantage of them. This is a kind of empire. It's imperialism. You know what I mean? We have the right to make the moral decisions of who's right and wrong, and we do that in a way that's capricious. We do that in a way that is self-serving. So our foreign policy and our moral positions become nothing but a self-serving racket.
Yeah, empire is one word.
Rick,
a lie may be a better word, though, for it. Go ahead, Wilmer.
That also shows you the dynamic of the shift of the left. Because when Paul Newman, that's when in the United States, the left was more left.
Right.
Post Bill Clinton and the Democratic Legislative Council moving the Democratic Party further to the right, that's one of the reasons why now it's harder to find actors and actresses, people in Hollywood, other people of that stature, to have that type of narrative, that type of analysis, and to speak with that type of clarity, because the left in the United States is right.
No, right now, go ahead.
You got something important. Add to what Wilmer said, he was talking to Phil Donahue. Phil Donahue was kicked off of MSNBC. He lost the #1 show on MSNBC. He lost that show simply because he opposed the invasion and subsequent occupation of Iraq.
I worked at MSNBC at the time. I met Mr. Donahue, and I call him that because I revered him as a boy growing up. When I finally got a chance to work with him at MSNBC, he and I became pretty good friends. We would often sit in the coffee in the commissary and talk about what was going on at the time with the Iraq War, and we both were in agreement, along with Lester Holt, who was the third part of that coffee club, and we all agreed at the time that what our country was doing was crazy and wrong. And Phil got axed. Eventually, so did I, and Lester moved on. So there's a little personal story.
If I may quickly,
go ahead.
When I was in high school, I used to come home from high school and watch the Phil Donahue show.
Me too.
And I may say, Rick, you are the closest thing on television to Phil Donahue that we have.
That's nice. I appreciate you saying that, man.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm going to pay for your next round of golf. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got to talk about the U.S. presidential election. It's getting crazy. It's getting interesting. It's changing by the minute. And there's so much to talk about. We're going to be right back. Don't you go away. Wow, that's the greatest compliment anybody's ever given me. All right, let's talk U.S. politics. And boy, things have flipped. Things are really changing and moving. The U.S. presidential race, I still think, is Donald Trump's to lose. No matter where you look, he's up by at least 2, sometimes 3 points, and pretty much still dominating most of the big battleground stakes. But here's what I see. Harris is making up a lot of ground fast because she's being managed very carefully. Her handlers are now preparing every word that comes out of her mouth. Every move that she makes is choreographed. And to be fair to her, she's playing the part very well so far, right? I mean, we haven't seen her challenged yet where she has to get off the prompter, but regardless, looks good, right? Trump, on the other hand, just not disciplined. I mean, he's going off the cuff whenever he wants to. Last night, his performance at the Black Journalist Conference was a disaster. It's viral, like within half a second. He's just riffing. And while that worked well for him in the primaries, because he's really good at it, right? And certainly it works with his base, the people who love him, he needs to understand, or maybe his handlers, I don't know, need to understand, that doesn't work for the general, especially for moderate voters that he needs to bring in. So what he needs to do is explain how he's going to make America great again, and it's not by attacking women or being overly negative or saying crazy things like this.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
I know what he means. He's trying to say that we're going to fix the system, so it's not like you have to go vote to fix the system anymore. That's what he meant. What it came off as is, first of all, I love you, my Christians. Second of all, he said he's not a Christian. And then he said in 4 years, it's all going to be fixed. I don't know if it's word choice or just, guys, I don't know which one of you wants to jump in here, but that's not a good look.
Well, the adage is never underestimate the blindness that attends arrogance. And so what you're seeing exhibited by Donald Trump is sheer arrogance. You're right. Vice President Harris right now is being incredibly well managed.
Yeah.
And more so, to her credit, she is now listening to her managers, because one of the knocks on her was she doesn't listen. And by not listening, she goes in unprepared.
Right.
And you're also
and has said
correct,
a lot of stupid things in the past because of that.
Has said not only a lot of stupid things, but said a lot of things we just can't comprehend. So that's what we're going to have to see when, to your point, she goes off script. Correct. When she is no longer able to get away with, he's a felon, I know felons. When she has to actually talk about policy, and if Donald Trump were smart, he would be moving the conversation in that direction. But unfortunately, that's his weakness as well.
But here's the point. I mean, the three of us probably to a certain extent are kind of, political analysts and, political strategists, because we do this for a living. Do you think at this point that it's his handlers aren't doing their job, or is it that?
No, he doesn't listen.
Or he doesn't listen. Okay. All right.
He doesn't listen. And final point before you go to Garland, final point is, now that you're in the general election, he's going to have to expand his base.
Of course.
And that is something that is going to be much, much, much harder for him to do than it's going to be for her.
He's better at primaries than he is at generals, is the saying mostly among some of these political strategists that I've been talking to. Go ahead, Garland.
Yeah, well, one thing I think is I don't evaluate Donald Trump's success and failures based on the traditional metrics that we use for politics, right? Because here's the reality. Everybody out there already knows who Donald Trump is. The people who are going to vote for Donald Trump don't really expect anything different from him, right? They're like, that's Trump, right? The question becomes this to me, and that is as I always say this, the price of chicken wings, the price of gas, inflation, anxiety over foreign policy, all of these things that aren't Donald Trump or Kamala Harris as a person. It's these people perceiving that their lives are better or worse, or they're unhappy. I have heard people say, yeah, I'm voting for Donald Trump. I've heard Black people say, I don't like him. I heard this. He's a racist. He called the country that I'm from an S-hole country. But I'm voting for him. I'm sick of this. See what I mean? So there are a lot of things that Donald Trump can get away with that people can't get away with because the Biden administration has set the table for him.
Yeah.
And people know who and what he is, so they don't expect something
Yeah,
different.
and there's another point to be made, too, along the lines where you're trying to take us here, and that is I think Kamala Harris is still in a honeymoon stage, and she's getting a lot of credit for superseding the numbers of the guy before her, who was, I mean, let's face it, almost a literal corpse. So the fact that she's doing better than Biden is not saying much. Nonetheless, she's doing a lot better than Biden. So I guess we have to leave it at that, right? The media, go ahead.
Well, yes, you have to understand the moment that you're in. And polling is no more than capturing a snapshot of a moment in time. And I've just published a piece, you're with her, but is she with you? And the point of the piece is, particularly as it relates to the African-American community, is they're trying to rally the troops around the fact that she went to a historically Black college. She's a member of an African-American sorority. She's a woman of color. Right. She's a woman. But when you get down to the policy discussions, where does she stand on genocide in Gaza? Will she continue to send your tax dollars, waste your money in Ukraine? And where does she stand on cop cities? That's where the rubber is going to meet the road.
Well, what matters also, though, is the media handling of this and the media coverage so far. I'll give you some examples of some of the things that I've seen. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but the coverage so far has been ridiculously trivial. Instead of challenging the candidates, as you say, the media on the left, like CNN and NBC, they spent days talking about why J.D. Vance may be a racist because he drinks Mountain Dew. And on the right, by the way, they spent an equal amount of time covering or debating whether Kamala Harris is too woke because she uses paper straws. I mean, with all the things, we're on the brink of World War III in 3 different places in the world, right? The South China Sea, Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East, and this is what they're talking about on these cable channels. And then when you get down to it, especially the mainstream, they cover the Democrats like they're the dear leaders. Let me give you 2 examples. This is coverage from the day Biden dropped out. I think the first is CNN, the second is MSNBC. Roll it, Victor.
Man, what a patriot. What an act of selfless devotion to your country.
I love this man. I care about this man. It was painful every day to sit up here and talk about him like he's just a, some problem for the party. Wait till we get to the convention. You're going to see people crying, standing, screaming, cheering. He may not get a chance to talk for 10 minutes. We finally get a chance to put our arm around this guy.
Yeah, real objective there, Garland. Real objective. I don't know.
Well, I think what we're looking at is this. There's an old law school joke, and you've probably heard it. If the evidence is against you, argue the law. If the law is against you, argue the evidence. If the evidence and the law are against you, bang and yell and bang on the table, right?
Argue.
So the fact of the matter is this: right now, she doesn't. The Biden administration doesn't have a good economic reform policy record. People are not happy with them, so the policy is not on their side. She does not have a strong political history either in her when she ran for election before, or certainly her stint as the AG in California. So they can't do policy. They can't do her accomplishments. So instead, they must go to trivial matters. She's a woman. She's this. Trump said this. They can't touch reality because she loses there.
Yeah, but do not, gentlemen, underestimate the power forged when the media and the Democratic apparatchiks come together. Don't underestimate that, because I think that's what we're going to be seeing over the next month. All right, let's go to the Olympics. All right, France.
Oh, let's not.
Shocks the world again. You saw what you all saw what they did with the opening ceremonies. All right. Well, now we have just learned within the past 24 hours they're allowing 2 biological men to compete against women boxers. Boxers, right? outcry. Global Olympic chiefs have sparked outrage by allowing these. The guy's name is Emain Khalif of Algeria. The other one is named Ling Yu Ting of Taiwan, both thrown out of last year's World Championships after being deemed to be men, biological males, to enter the women's boxing category in Paris. Khalif, who also competed in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, was disqualified from the competition after failing gender eligibility tests. In other words, they tested his blood, found he had tons of testosterone and wrong chromosomes, et cetera, prior to his gold medal bout. Here's some video, by the way.
A la mexicana, Emain Khalif, que se está llevando la contienda ahora en las repeticiones, golpe de
He's the one in the blue, by the way, beating up on that female boxer. That's the female boxer who got just destroyed by him. And she's, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, she's wearing a dress. He's not. And the guy's tough. I mean, he throws unbelievable punches. The lady was quoted after the fight as saying, "I've never been hit so hard in my life. I didn't understand. I've been boxing for a long time." What do you got? I mean, Wilmer, start.
This also takes us back to Leah Thomas, the female, the transgender swimmer from University of Pennsylvania, I believe, who was not allowed in the Olympics because the Swiss Swimming Federation, whatever that governing body is for swimmers, denied Leah Thomas's challenge. Boxing is probably the clearest example of why some lines must be drawn here in order to protect. See, the transgender community is trying to put this in the context of their rights. This has nothing to do with their rights. It's a matter of protecting the opposition against their wrongs.
Yeah.
And when you put a biological male in a ring with a biological female, there is because when I first turned on that fight, I didn't realize that was a transgendered boxer in blue. I said, this girl is getting her hind parts whooped. And then I go to find out, well, yeah, because she's fighting a guy.
We're out of time, but let me close with this. It's funny because right now the Dems are apparently hitting the GOP or the Republican or Trump and Vance with the word weird. In actuality, if they were fair, most people all over the world, I'd say more than 90%, would look at this story that you and I just talked about, which represents kind of the values of both sides, and they would say, that's weird. They would say, that's weird. And that's the story that in many ways isn't being told, but I think will be determinative of how this election ends up. Gentlemen, we are out of time. You know I love talking to you. I could go on for many, many more hours, but we do have to go. Thank you both for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you, Rick.
That's our show. Remember, always look outside your own box. Truths, as we like to say around here, they don't live in boxes. I'm Rick Sanchez, and we'll see you next time.